Hey, my name is Ryan Freeman, and today I'm extremely excited to give you a quick walkthrough of my podcast mastering presets. So this is it, off. I'm Ryan Freeman, and you're listening to Workshop. Jakob de Boer is a fine arts photographer working out of Toronto and Paris. He just finished his new photography series called Where Ravens Cry, captured in the Pacific Northwest, and this is with it on. I'm Ryan Freeman, and you're listening to Workshop. Jakob de Boer is a fine arts photographer working out of Toronto and Paris. He just finished his new photography series called Where Ravens Cry, captured in the Pacific Northwest. So you might not even know that you can master or should be mastering your podcast, but I want you to think about mastering as that kind of finalizing polish that you put on your sound. So the beautiful thing about mastering is that it'll take your voice, it'll take your sound effects, your music, all these different layers of sound within your episode. Really, it glues all those different layers of sound together and gives you a unified, cohesive final sound. In my podcast mastering preset pack, there are 12 presets to choose from. The presets are currently available for Adobe Audition, Logic Pro, and GarageBand, but other programs will be available soon. My mastering presets pair beautifully with my podcast voice processing presets. The podcast mastering and voice processing presets really are designed to work together to give you the best possible sound, which are offered as a bundle and a discounted price on my website. So this brings us to the walkthrough portion of the video. I'll be using Logic Pro, but don't worry if you don't have Logic. Each of the presets, settings, and effects, and ultimately the final sound is exactly the same in each program. So when you download the podcast mastering presets, you're going to get a zip file that looks like this. It'll say podcast master presets and then the program that you selected. So in this case, we're using Logic Pro. So you'll want to unzip this file and then this folder will appear. And then within this folder, we have a detailed install instruction walkthrough so you can see exactly where your presets should be going, kind of behind the scenes in the folders on your computer. Then we also have an image of a bit of a folder guide, so you know exactly where the presets should be being installed, so they show up properly in your program. And then of course we have the folder that has the 12 presets. So when you're looking at the group of presets, the medium setting is more or less my go-to setting that I have tweaked around this idea of removing mud, a sparkling shine, my Ryan Freeman Classic, which is my go-to master that I put on more or less everything, and then tone down. So the medium setting is what I started with to kind of get, say, we'll take remove the mud, for example. Say it's a bit of a muddy mix and you want it to be a bit cleaner and not so kind of damp sounding. So I created each medium mastering preset to taste to what sounded good to my ears. And if you're finding that the medium preset is just a little too intense for you, too much processing going on, you can switch it over to the light and then vice versa. If you're finding that the medium isn't quite enough processing, you want to hear a bit more of a drastic difference in the sound and tone, you can click the hard setting and then that should make a big difference. Today I'm using Logic Pro, but across all programs, the settings and the final sound result will be the exact same. I made sure to A/B test everything from Logic to GarageBand to Audition to make sure that these presets are delivering the same results and the sound from program to program. So I've gone ahead and prepped a project file for Logic Pro. This is for one of my podcast episodes called Workshop, where it's a pretty standard podcasting format where you have a voiceover intro with some music in the background. And really, this is where my mastering presets really shine. If there is a voice and there's music in the background or sound effects, or even multiple voices with people in conversation, this is where the mastering presets really come into play. Say you're in a conversation, you want the voices to sit well with one another, and also with music behind a vocal or sound effects. You want that music to be present and to be felt, but yet you also want the vocal to sit very nicely on top of the music and the sound effects. So it's not really getting lost or your music really isn't being heard. You want this nice kind of compressed, even sound. So all the elements and layers of your show or your episode are being heard and felt the way that you want them to be. And I just want to make a quick note. If you don't know much about mastering is best applied with gentle, broad brushstrokes. So if you're hearing specific frequencies or tones in your in your voice or your podcast that are really standing out, it shouldn't necessarily be fixed in the master. It needs to be fixed in the mix. I think these presets really do give you a competitive edge to your final sound. There's something special and unique about the final sound when these presets are applied, where it's very subtle. It might not necessarily jump out at you, but there is something there. So I have my vocal track and I have music and I've pre-mixed it so that my voice sounds nice sitting on top of my music. What I'm going to do is go to the output, user channel strip settings, and Ryan Freeman podcast master. So even though I'm working in Logic, you'll be able to get the exact same sound in Adobe Audition or GarageBand or any of the other programs. So remove the mud, takes out that muddy kind of damp sound of your final mix. If things are sounding a little clustered and not that clear, this is a great setting for you to play around with. Sparkle and Shine is a bit of an evolution on Remove the Mud. It takes out some of that mid, some of that muddy sound, but it adds quite a bit of a high end, so it really does brighten it up quite a bit. The classic Ryan Freeman is a bit of a combination of all of these presets, where this is my go-to setting that I throw on everything. And I wanted you all to have it and be able to achieve the same sound as me. And then tone down is if your final mix is sounding a little harsh, a little too bright, and you need to just bring it down a little bit. This brings down a lot of those high mid to high frequencies, and it really helps kind of round and smooth out your overall sound. So of course, I'm going to go with the Ryan Freeman Classic so you can hear, and I'm going to go with the medium setting, which is my go-to processing, like I said earlier, for each of these different groups. I would start with the medium and then kind of work your way around it. If it's too much, go to light. If it's not enough, go to hard. But I'm going to start with the medium and I'll do some A/B tests so you can hear what it sounds like. So this is it off. I'm Ryan Freeman and you're listening to Workshop. Jakob de Boer is a fine arts photographer working out of Toronto and Paris. He just finished his new photography series called Where Ravens Cry, captured in the Pacific Northwest. And this is with it on. I'm Ryan Freeman, and you're listening to Workshop. Jakob de Boer is a fine arts photographer working out of Toronto and Paris. He just finished his new photography series called Where Ravens Cry, captured in the Pacific Northwest. So as you can hear, and like what I said earlier, mastering is very gentle and is best applied in this type of way and technique. You don't want anything too drastic, but through proper compression, EQ, and limiting, which is what we have going on here, that is exactly what you're getting. So I'll toggle back and forth between the presets activated and not activated. So I really want you to hear how these mastering presets really shine when there's multiple layers of audio. In this case, the voice is on top of the music, and hear how when they are not activated, they're a little more separate. The music's a little farther back in the distance. And when I activate this preset, you can really hear how the music and voice become one. It really unifies the different layers of audio, giving your final mix a really nice cohesive sound. This is off. On large format film and printed on silver gelatin prints in Paris. The series will premiere in 2019 and will also be published as a book by Nazreli Press in early of next year. And this is on. Prints in Paris. The series will premiere in 2019 and will also be published as a book by Nazreli Press in early of next year. His team is in the middle of organizing exhibitions for the series with various galleries and museums all around the world, among also being a prototype tester for 3 years for Leica. Jakob is a good friend of mine and has had a large influence on shaping how I approach my work. So these mastering presets really do elevate your final sound and gives you that competitive edge. There is something special and unified about your final sound. And really my work and these presets that I've made are really about taking your work to the next level. So I do want to point out that my voice is being processed by my voice processing preset, which is also available on my site. And it's available to be bundled with the mastering preset, always at a discounted price. And really the voice processing preset pack and the mastering preset pack are made to work with one another to give you the best possible sound. And I'll finish off just by playing the rest of this intro so you can really hear what these presets are doing. Among also being a prototype tester for 3 years for Leica, Jakob is a good friend of mine and has had a large influence on shaping how I approach my work. I've never really met someone more dedicated to mastering their craft than Jakob. Regardless of what industry you're in, you won't want to miss this episode. So as you can hear, mastering your podcast is fairly important to give you a final unified and cohesive sound. Not to mention, it brings your final sound to the standard podcast output volume. Thank you for spending some time with me today and for your continued support. I really do believe that these presets will make a big difference in your sound, and I cannot wait to hear what you make with them.